And let me ask you to direct your attention to a short video. It's going to share an important story. It's a really extraordinary public-private effort, which the Vice President mentioned earlier this morning, to drive inclusive economic growth by integrating public and private investments in new ways. So let's have a look.
The single greatest predictor of one's ability to move up the ladder, which is sort of the definition of the American dream. It's not the zip code, it's not the education even, it's family net worth. The generational wealth has been created in entrepreneurial ventures in small businesses, particularly in communities that have been historically underserved. They have ample capacity to succeed. What they need is someone to help them build their business.
Congress realized during the pandemic that it was going to have a particular impact on communities of color, Black and brown communities. The concern was around what would happen to the small business ecosystem and the economy in these communities, and how do we make sure we invest in ways that not only preserve what exists, but also build more resiliency and success going forward.
When people hear underserved communities, they immediately connect the dots thinking that somehow equates to risk. But if we look at the loss ratios of these CDFIs, they perform at par or sometimes better than their larger peer banks.
Today, many immigrant business owners, including some Asian American business owners, face language barriers that limit their ability to access capital and banking services. And people who live in rural areas, including many Native Americans, often lack access to traditional financial services of any kind.
In 2022, a pivotal discussion at the Freedman Bank Forum echoed the urgency to address the economic disparity underserved communities face. The call for a structured, impactful response resonated through the nation's capital.
The Senate also recognized the need to take leadership on this issue. And that came in the form of Senators Warner from Virginia and Senator Crapo from Idaho, one Republican, one Democrat, coming together saying, there's no reason for the work around community development finance to be partisan whatsoever. It is really an American issue and not an us versus them issue.
My hope is that CDFIs, MDIs will now have a bipartisan group of senators that will support this extraordinarily important work going forward.
The Biden-Harris administration went even further through investments like those in the CDFI's Funds Equitable Recover program.
The private sector had made lots of commitments to try to reach those communities as well. And so this caused the federal government to go and have a conversation with corporate America. And so that's what led to the formation of the coalition.
The Economic Opportunity Coalition channels resources to bridge the economic divide, empowering underserved communities.
The Economic Opportunity Coalition is a historic public-private partnership that consists of Fortune 500 companies, foundations, and community-based organizations that have all come together to try to align and catalyze investments in underserved communities.
Our mission is to ensure that everyone has access to affordable, easy to use and secure financial products and services. We've invested over $150 million into MDIs and CDFIs, and that capital is helping people build equity and build financial health. One of the most rewarding aspects of being part of the EOC is the dynamic discussions that we're having with other corporations, with government agencies, with MDIs, CDFIs, nonprofits, and foundations that are working together to build a more equitable future. And those discussions and the learnings that have come out of them have really informed our own investment strategy at PayPal and how we think about the impact that we're creating.
They believe that every part of the economy has to have a chance to thrive in order for them to thrive. So they're leaning in with us, and in many cases, they're not necessarily taking greater risk. Well, history has also shown that CDFIs and MDIs, especially in times of crisis, actually overperformed traditional financial institutions. It's not a charitable ask. It's a smart investment into the future of GDP growth in America.
This organization comes together around three core principles. That is accountability, to make sure that everything that we're doing is data-driven. quality over quantity, to make sure that we just have a limited number of solutions that really have deep impact in communities, and then alignment and synergy between the public, private, and social sector to make sure that we're working together.
We know that our economy can only reach its full potential when all Americans can participate in it.
What the EOC, to me, does is to create channels of capital that permanently are invested with expectations, both social and financial returns, right? It's not charity, but those channels of capital will find those communities through the intermediaries like CDFIs and MDIs to become a movement.
The Economic Opportunity Coalition mission grows with each partnership, each story of change.
Opportunity Coalition is focusing on 2 initiatives over the next year. The first is continuing our deposit initiative. And so we hope to reach out to more partners to join us in this effort, and also talk to folks who are not familiar with community development financial institutions at all. Our second initiative is our request that our corporate partners match what the federal government is doing in terms of investments in small and disadvantaged businesses.
We invite you to join corporate citizens spurring business growth and homeownership in rural and urban communities through meaningful investments in CDFIs, MDIs, and small and disadvantaged businesses.